There was a time when putting your money in a high-yield savings account felt like a quiet little victory. You were not gambling. You were not chasing some hot stock. You were not trying to impress anybody. You were just being responsible. And for a while, that felt smart. But something strange happens after 40. The word safe starts to sound better than the word growth. And that is where a lot of people quietly get trapped. Because a high-yield savings account can protect your money from chaos, but it cannot always protect your life from getting more expensive. You see the interest coming in and it feels good. A few dollars here, a little more there. It looks like progress. But then groceries rise, insurance rises, property taxes rise, medical costs rise. And suddenly, the account that made you feel ahead is only helping you fall behind more slowly. And that is the uncomfortable part. Sometimes the smart move is not wrong. It is just no longer enough. So in this video, we are going to talk honestly about why high-yield savings accounts are losing their power, where they still belong, and the mistake many people make when they confuse earning interest with actually building financial strength. Most people do not keep too much money in cash because they are lazy. They do it because they are tired. By the time you are in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, you have probably seen enough financial surprises to make you cautious. Maybe you watched the stock market fall at exactly the wrong time. Maybe you helped an adult child more than you planned. Maybe you had a medical bill come out of nowhere. Maybe you lost a job once and still remember the feeling of looking at your bank account and wondering how long you could last. So when someone says, just invest more, it can sound easy. But real life is not easy. Real life has mortgages, car repairs, insurance renewals, aging parents, college bills, and that quiet fear that if something goes wrong, nobody is coming to rescue you. That is why high-yield savings accounts became so attractive. They gave people something they had not felt in years: control. You could open the app and see the money sitting there. No market swings, no red days, no complicated charts, no guessing. Just cash, earning something. And compared to the old days when regular savings accounts paid almost nothing, it felt like the bank was finally giving you something back. And to be fair, that part is real. A high-yield savings account is not useless. It can be a very good place for money that has a job in the near future. Emergency funds, property taxes, insurance premiums, a car replacement fund, a down payment you plan to use soon, money you cannot afford to see drop 20% right before you need it. That kind of money should not be treated like investment money. It should be treated like protection money. But the problem begins when protection money turns into hiding money. You tell yourself, I just want to be safe. Then 6 months pass, then a year, then 2 years. The account grows a little, and you feel responsible. But somewhere underneath that feeling, there is another truth. You are not really building wealth. You are storing money in a place that feels comfortable. And comfort can be expensive. Imagine a man in his early 50s. He has $80,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account. On paper, he feels good. He has cash. He has options. He is not broke. The account pays interest every month. And when he sees that deposit, he feels like he is making a smart move. But then ask a different question. What is that $80,000 supposed to do? Is it for emergencies? Is it for a house repair? Is it for retirement? Is it because he is afraid of investing? Is it because he has no plan, but cash makes him feel like he has one? That question matters more than the interest rate. Because money without a purpose usually chooses fear by default, and fear loves savings accounts. Fear says, keep more here. You never know what could happen. And fear is not always wrong. That is what makes it dangerous. Something could happen. The car could break. The roof could leak. A job could disappear. Life does not ask permission before it sends a bill. But here is the test. If all your money is being kept safe from market risk, is it also being kept away from growth? When you are younger, you can make some slow decisions and still recover. Time covers a lot of mistakes. But after 40, and especially after 50, every financial decision carries more weight. You do not need to panic, but you do need to become more precise. A high-yield savings account can be a strong tool for short-term stability, but it becomes a weak plan when you use it for long-term security. Long-term security is not just about avoiding loss. It is about making sure your money still has strength 10, 15, 20 years from now. Retirement does not ask how safe your money felt. Retirement asks what your money can buy. There is a difference. So before you ask, what interest rate am I getting? Ask something deeper. What is this money for? If the money is for emergencies, then safety is the priority. If it is for a purchase soon, safety is the priority. But if it is for your future self, the version of you who will be 65, 70, 75, then safety alone may not be enough. That future version of you does not just need money that survived. He needs money that kept its strength. A high-yield savings account does not fail loudly. It fails politely. It pays you a little interest. It sends you clean monthly statements. It makes you feel like you are doing something wise. And because nothing dramatic happens, you do not feel the danger. That is why it can be so easy to confuse stillness with progress. A bad investment can scare you in 1 week. A high-yield savings account can weaken your future over 10 years and never once look dangerous. Most people measure money by looking at the number. If the number is not going down, they feel safe. If the number is going up a little, they feel even safer. But after 40, the real question is not just, is my account balance growing? The real question is my account balance growing faster than my life is getting more expensive? Because those are two very different things. A person can have more dollars and less purchasing power at the same time. You feel responsible because you did not lose money, but your money may be losing the race against rent, food, taxes, repairs, insurance, healthcare, and everything else that does not care how cautious you are. Imagine you have $60,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account. It earns a decent rate and every month you see interest appear. That feels good. It feels clean. It feels adult. But then your car insurance renews higher. Your grocery bill is heavier than it used to be. The plumber charges more. The dentist costs more. A simple trip to the store feels different than it did 5 years ago. The $60,000 is still there. But the world around that $60,000 changed. This is why the word safe needs to be handled carefully. Safe from what? Safe from market drops? Yes. Safe from a sudden emergency? Maybe. Safe from inflation? Not always. Safe from outliving your money? Usually not. Safe from making a decision? Absolutely. And that last one is where many people get stuck. Sometimes a high-yield savings account becomes a place where people park money not because it is the best tool, but because it postpones the discomfort of choosing. It lets them say, I am being careful, when deep down the real sentence might be, I do not know what to do next. And that is not a character flaw. That is human. A lot of people were never taught how to think about money beyond working, saving, paying bills, and hoping things turn out okay. They were told debt is bad, saving is good, investing is risky, and retirement will somehow come together. But life after 40 forces you to become more specific. You cannot run your financial life on slogans anymore. Save more is too vague. Invest for the long term is too vague. Be careful is too vague. At this stage, vague advice can become expensive. A practical question you can ask yourself is this: if I do not touch this money for the next 5 years, will I be glad it stayed in cash? Sit with that question for a moment. If the answer is yes because you are saving for a home repair, a car, taxes, emergency protection, or a specific purchase, then cash may be doing its job. But if the answer is, I do not know, then the money may not have a job. And money without a job usually becomes emotional storage. Here is another test. Look at the cash you have beyond your basic emergency fund and ask, what fear is this money protecting me from? Maybe it is protecting you from another layoff. Maybe from medical bills. Maybe from depending on your children. Maybe from becoming like someone in your family who struggled late in life. These are real fears, mature fears, human fears. But once you name the fear, you can build a better plan around it. If you do not name it, the fear will keep making quiet decisions for you. The problem is not cash. The problem is unconscious cash. Money that just sits because nobody told it where to go. Money that stays in savings because the owner has not separated short-term needs from long-term needs. Money that feels useful because it is visible, even though part of it might be underworking. That is the phrase I want you to remember. Underworking money, not wasted money, not foolish money. Underworking money. It is there. It is trying. But it is not carrying the weight your future may require. A high-yield savings account is like a good umbrella. You are thankful for it when it rains. You should have it nearby. But you do not build a house out of umbrellas. Too many people are trying to build their entire financial future with a tool designed for short-term shelter. So look at your cash and ask, which part of this money is protecting me and which part is hiding? That question alone can separate peace from paralysis. There is another reason high-yield savings accounts can become dangerous, and it has nothing to do with the interest rate. It has to do with the feeling they give you. They make you feel finished. They make you feel like the responsible thing has already been done. You saved the money. You kept it liquid. You avoided debt. You did not chase a risky idea. And because all of that is true, it becomes very easy to stop asking harder questions. But after 40, the harder questions are usually the ones that protect you most. A lot of people think the biggest financial danger is making a bad move. Buying too much house, financing a car that eats half your breathing room, helping family with money you cannot afford to lose, selling investments in panic, carrying credit card debt while pretending it is temporary. Those things can cause damage fast. But there is another kind of danger that works more quietly, making no move for too long. Not because you are careless, but because you are comfortable. The balance is sitting there. The account is paying something. Nobody is calling you foolish. So you wait. And waiting starts to feel like wisdom, even when it is really indecision wearing a nice coat. Imagine a couple in their early 50s. They have $120,000 in a high-yield savings account. They feel proud of it, and they should. That money probably came from years of discipline. Skipped vacations, old cars driven longer than they wanted, extra shifts, saying no when other people said yes. That money represents sacrifice, so touching it feels emotional. Moving part of it into something that can fluctuate feels like disrespecting the work it took to build it. So they leave all of it there. Month after month, year after year, they call it safety. But then retirement gets closer. Healthcare costs become more real. Their home needs a roof. Their adult child struggles. One of them starts wondering if they can really work until 67. Suddenly, that $120,000 is not just savings. It is supposed to be an emergency fund, a retirement backup, a family rescue fund, a home repair fund, and emotional security all at the same time. And no account can do all of that well if the money has not been organized by purpose. That is where many people get fooled. They think the problem is whether the account pays 4%, 5%, or 3%. But the deeper problem is that one pile of money is being asked to play too many roles. When money has too many jobs, it becomes stressful to use. You do not know if spending $8,000 on a necessary home repair is wise or dangerous because you never decided what part of that money was for home repairs. You do not know if investing $20,000 is responsible or reckless because you never decided what part of that money was long-term money. It is just one big emotional number. A simple, practical way to fix this is not to make a dramatic move. It is to name the money. Emergency fund, next car, home maintenance, taxes, medical cushion, retirement growth, opportunity fund. When you give each part of your money a job, fear starts to calm down because decisions have context. You are not asking, should I move money out of savings? You are asking, which money needs to stay safe and which money has enough time to work harder? The right amount of cash is personal, but it should not be accidental. Some people truly need a larger cash cushion. If your income is unstable, if you own a home, if you have health concerns, if you support family, if your job is uncertain, if you are close to retirement, then a bigger cushion may make sense. Peace has value, but peace and avoidance can look very similar from the outside. The difference is whether you can explain the number. If you have $30,000 in cash because your monthly expenses are $5,000 and you want 6 months of protection, that is a plan. If you have $150,000 in cash because the thought of doing anything else makes you uncomfortable, that may be fear. And fear should be listened to, but it should not be allowed to run the whole household. One question worth asking is, how much cash would actually let me sleep at night? Not impress someone, not satisfy a vague fear. Actually let you sleep. Once you find that number, everything above it deserves a second look. Not an automatic investment, not a reckless decision, just a second look. Because excess cash can feel like strength while quietly creating weakness in another part of your life. This is where people often say, "But I do not want to lose money." And that sentence deserves respect. Nobody wants to lose money. But there are different ways to lose. You can lose through market declines, you can lose through inflation, you can lose through taxes, you can lose through missed growth, you can lose through fear-based decisions. Only one of those losses shows up clearly on a statement. The others show up later in your lifestyle. That is why chasing the highest yield can become a distraction. People will move money from one bank to another for 0.5% and feel like they are optimizing. Sometimes that is fine. But if the bigger issue is that too much long-term money is sitting in cash, then chasing a slightly higher yield is like polishing the wrong side of the car. It looks responsible, it feels active, but it does not answer the deeper question, is this money in the right category for what I need it to do? The goal is not to abandon savings. The smart move is to stop letting savings pretend to be a full financial plan. One of the most dangerous things about a high-yield savings account is that it can make small wins feel bigger than they really are. You open the app. You see interest paid. Maybe it is $80, maybe $150, maybe $300 if the balance is large enough. And there is a little satisfaction in that. It feels like the money worked while you slept. It feels like the bank finally paid you instead of the other way around. After years of banks charging fees, credit cards charging interest, and life taking money out faster than it comes in, seeing money added to your account can feel like justice. But the question is not whether the interest feels good. The question is whether it is changing your future. A few $100s in interest feels visible. A loss of purchasing power feels invisible. You notice the deposit. You do not notice the slow rise in everything else. You notice the bank paying you. You do not notice that your next insurance bill swallowed 6 months of interest in one envelope. You notice the yield. You do not notice the opportunity cost. And that is how a person can feel smart and still be underprepared. Let's say someone has $100,000 in a high-yield savings account. At a good rate, it may produce several $1,000s a year before taxes. That sounds meaningful, and it is not nothing. But then ask what that money is supposed to become over the next 10 or 15 years. Is it supposed to help fund retirement? Is it supposed to replace part of a paycheck? Is it supposed to help pay for healthcare later? If so, then the interest may not be enough. It may preserve comfort today while leaving tomorrow underfed. And taxes matter too. The interest from a savings account is usually taxable as ordinary income. So the rate you see advertised is not always the rate you truly keep. After taxes, the real return can be smaller. Then after inflation, smaller again. Now suddenly, the account that looked powerful begins to look more like a holding area. Useful, yes. Better than earning nothing, yes. But not necessarily strong enough to carry long-term money. This is not about becoming obsessed with returns. That is another trap. Some people realize savings are not enough, and then they start chasing anything that promises more. A hot stock, a strange fund, a risky real estate deal, a high-income strategy they barely understand. That is not wisdom either. The answer to underworking money is not reckless money. The answer is properly assigned money. There is a quiet maturity in saying, this money needs to stay safe, and this money needs to grow. Both can be true. You do not have to choose between hiding and gambling. For many Americans over 40, the real issue is not that they have a high-yield savings account. The real issue is that their financial life is full of half-finished decisions. They have some cash, but no clear emergency number. They have a 401k, but they do not know if they are contributing enough. They have home equity, but they do not know what role it plays. They have debt, but they do not know which debt is truly dangerous and which debt is simply annoying. They have a retirement date in mind, but no real picture of what monthly life will cost. So the savings account becomes the emotional center of the whole plan because it is the only part they can see clearly. Visible money feels more real than invisible progress. That is why cash feels so powerful. Investments feel abstract. Retirement accounts feel distant. Social security feels uncertain. Home equity feels trapped in the walls. But cash sitting in a bank account feels like proof. Proof you are not failing. Proof you have discipline. Proof you can survive something. And that proof matters. But proof is not the same thing as preparation. Here is a practical test. Imagine you are 5 years older than you are right now. Same house, same bills, maybe a little higher. Same family responsibilities, maybe a little more complicated. Now imagine looking back at the cash you have today. Would your future self say, "Thank you for keeping all of that in savings"? Or would your future self say, "I wish you had made a clearer plan for part of it"? That question forces you to separate emotional safety from strategic safety. Emotional safety says, "I feel better because the money is there." Strategic safety says, "This money is positioned according to when I need it and what I need it to do." You need both. But if emotional safety is the only thing guiding your decisions, you may end up with a very calm present and a very pressured future. Another real-life example, someone keeps $40,000 in cash because they are afraid of emergencies, but they also carry $12,000 in credit card debt at a high interest rate. In their mind, the cash feels like safety. But practically, the debt is eating faster than the savings account is feeding. That does not mean they should empty the entire account and leave themselves exposed. But it does mean they need to compare the numbers honestly. Sometimes the smartest return is not moving money into an investment. Sometimes it is removing a financial leak. Or consider someone who has a paid-off car, but knows it may need replacing in 2 or 3 years. That money probably does belong somewhere safe. The timeline is short, but if the money is for age 70, 75, or 80, then treating it like a car replacement fund may be too conservative. The timeline should lead the tool. Cash is a bridge, not a destination. It helps you cross uncertainty. It helps you avoid bad debt. It helps you handle life without selling something at the wrong time. But if you stand on the bridge forever, you never reach the other side. And the other side, for many people over 40, is not luxury. It is simply being able to age with dignity, options, and less fear. The moment a person realizes that a high-yield savings account is not enough, there is usually a second danger waiting right behind that realization. Panic. Not loud panic, maybe. A quieter kind. The kind that says, "I am behind. I waited too long. I should have done more years ago. Maybe I need to catch up fast." And that feeling can be just as dangerous as doing nothing. Because after 40, fear can push you into cash, but regret can push you into risk you do not understand. That is why the next step is not to run from your savings account into the first investment that promises more. The next step is to slow down and separate the problem. A high-yield savings account may no longer be the smart move for some of your money, but that does not mean every dollar should leave. It means each dollar needs a clearer assignment. A lot of people think financial progress has to feel dramatic. They imagine selling things, moving large balances, opening new accounts, changing their entire strategy overnight. But mature financial improvement is usually quieter than that. It often begins with looking at the money you already have and telling the truth about it. This part is for emergencies. This part is for bills I know are coming. This part is for repairs. This part is sitting here because I am scared. This part has no reason to be in cash for the next 10 years. That kind of honesty is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Start with your monthly life, not your dream life, your real life. Mortgage or rent, groceries, utilities, insurance, gas, prescriptions, minimum debt payments, family support, the things that keep your household standing. Now ask, if income stopped tomorrow, how many months would I want covered before I could think clearly? For some people, it is 6 months. For others, 9 or 12. For someone with unstable income, health concerns, or people depending on them, it may be more. That number is not weakness. It is your sleep at night number. Once that number is named, your savings account becomes less mysterious. If your monthly essential expenses are $5,000 and you decide that 12 months of protection is right for your life, then $60,000 has a clear purpose. It is standing guard. But if you have $120,000 in cash and only $60,000 has a defined emergency job, Then the next question becomes calmer. What is the other $60,000 for? Not, should I invest it all? Not, am I stupid for keeping it? Just, what is its job? That one question removes a lot of emotional fog. Maybe part of it is for a roof in 2 years. Fine, name it. Maybe part is for replacing a car. Fine, name it. Maybe part is for taxes. Fine, name it. But maybe there is still a portion that has no near-term purpose. That is the money that deserves a different conversation. Not because savings accounts are bad, but because long-term money should not be trapped in short-term clothing. People over 40 need a certain kind of discipline. Not just the discipline to save, but the discipline to let some money be uncomfortable in a productive way. Growth usually comes with movement. It comes with fluctuation. It comes with months where the number does not make you feel good. Saving gives you emotional consistency. Investing gives you long-term potential with short-term discomfort. And not everyone can handle the same amount of discomfort. That is okay. The goal is not to copy someone else's tolerance. The goal is to choose a level of discomfort your future actually needs and your present can actually survive. Too much discomfort makes you panic. Too little discomfort makes your money underwork. The right plan lives somewhere between those two. It protects you from emergencies without pretending the entire future is an emergency. A simple mental test is this. Would I rather see small changes in my account along the way or discover a large gap later? Most people do not like either option. Nobody wants volatility. Nobody wants uncertainty. But a person has to choose which discomfort they are willing to face. The discomfort of planning now or the discomfort of being cornered later. A good financial structure often has layers. The first layer is immediate cash, the money that keeps you from using a credit card for life's surprises. The second layer is planned cash, money for known expenses in the next year or two. The third layer may be cautious money, for goals that are not tomorrow but not far away either. The fourth layer is long-term growth money, the part that must be allowed to work through time. When all four layers are thrown into one savings account, the account may look strong, but the plan is weak. Another practical question: what would have to happen for me to feel okay moving some money out of cash? Maybe you need your emergency fund fully funded first. Maybe you need to pay off a high-interest credit card. Maybe you need to understand the investment better. Maybe you need to move gradually instead of all at once. Maybe you need to talk with a qualified financial professional because the decision affects retirement, taxes, or estate planning. The point is to turn vague fear into specific conditions. Vague fear says, not now. Specific conditions say, when these things are true, I can act. A high-yield savings account can be a wonderful servant and a terrible master. As a servant, it holds your emergency fund. It protects your short-term needs. It gives you liquidity. But as a master, it can keep you frozen. It can make you believe that because your money is visible, your future is secure. It can make you focus on a monthly interest deposit while avoiding bigger questions about retirement income, debt, taxes, healthcare, and the life you are actually trying to build. Maybe the question is not, should I stop using high-yield savings accounts? Maybe the question is, have I been using mine to avoid building the next layer of my financial life? The goal is not to shame the saver. The saver already did something many people never do. The goal is to help the saver become a planner, to move from accumulation to assignment, from cash as comfort to money as structure. At some point, every responsible person reaches a strange financial crossroads. Not broke, not wealthy, just tired of uncertainty. Tired of feeling like every decision carries hidden consequences. Tired of wondering if they are being too cautious or not cautious enough. And that is usually the moment when people begin holding onto cash tighter than they should. Not because they are greedy, because they are exhausted. After decades of working, paying bills, surviving surprises, and watching the economy constantly change its rules, certainty starts feeling more valuable than growth. But here is the difficult truth. The second half of life cannot be built on certainty alone, because certainty has a cost too. A person who refuses all risk may eventually be forced into a different kind of risk later, working longer than they wanted, delaying retirement, depending too heavily on Social Security. carrying financial stress into years that were supposed to feel calmer, quietly lowering their standard of living because their money stayed too still for too long. And that is why this conversation matters. Not because high-yield savings accounts are bad, but because too many people are asking one safe account to solve problems that require a broader strategy. If you are still here with me at the end of this video, I want to invite you to subscribe to our channel and follow us every day. Most people are not looking for flashy financial advice anymore. They are looking for clarity. They are looking for honest conversations that actually connect to real life. And if that sounds like you are in the right place. And honestly, I think a lot of people watching this video already feel the shift happening. You can sense that the old financial formulas are not working the same way anymore. Work harder, save more, keep cash, avoid mistakes. Those ideas are not wrong. They are just incomplete now because the economy changed, retirement changed, housing changed, healthcare changed, even peace of mind changed. The numbers that once felt safe do not feel as safe anymore. That is why people over 40 need to stop measuring financial health only by account balances. The better question is this: how much flexibility does my money create? Because flexibility is what really reduces fear. The ability to handle an emergency without panic. The ability to leave a toxic job if necessary. The ability to help family without destroying yourself financially. The ability to age without feeling trapped. A savings account can support flexibility, but it cannot create all of it by itself. Think about someone who has a large amount of cash but no real plan. From the outside, they look secure, but internally they may still feel anxious because the money is not organized around their future. Then think about someone else who has less cash overall, but every dollar has a purpose. Emergency fund, retirement growth, debt reduction, upcoming expenses. That second person may actually sleep better, even with less money, because clarity reduces emotional weight. And clarity matters more than perfection. A lot of people delay improving their financial structure because they think they need the perfect answer first, the perfect investment, the perfect timing, the perfect economy. But financial stability is usually built through adjustments, not perfection. Quiet adjustments, mature adjustments. Maybe your adjustment is simply realizing you do not need as much idle cash as you thought. Maybe it is paying off a high-interest debt that has been quietly draining you for years. Maybe it is finally defining a true emergency fund instead of one giant emotional savings pile. Maybe it is admitting that retirement is close enough now that long-term money deserves a clearer strategy. Those are not dramatic changes, but they can completely change the trajectory of the next 15 or 20 years. The smartest financial people are often not the most aggressive. They are the most intentional. They know why their cash exists. They know why their investments exist. They know what risks they are accepting and what risks they are trying to reduce. They do not chase every trend, but they also do not hide from every uncomfortable decision. Maybe that is the real shift people need after 40. Moving from fear-based safety to purpose-based safety. Fear-based safety says, keep everything where nothing moves. Purpose-based safety says, give every dollar the job that best protects my life. One creates temporary comfort. The other creates long-term resilience. Because in the end, the goal is not just to avoid losing money. The goal is to build a life where money stops controlling your emotional state every single day. Where one unexpected bill does not ruin your month. Where retirement does not feel like a cliff. Where your future is not built entirely on hope, but also not frozen entirely by fear. And ironically, that kind of peace rarely comes from one account balance. It usually comes from knowing your financial life finally makes sense. By now, the real issue is probably clear. A high-yield savings account was never the enemy. It was never foolish. It was never something only naive people used. For many people, it was the first place where money finally stopped disappearing. It was the account that helped them breathe again. It was the place where an emergency fund became real. It was the quiet proof that life was not completely out of control. And that deserves respect. But a tool that helps you breathe is not always the same tool that helps you build. That is the line many people miss. There is a season when cash is exactly what you need, when you are rebuilding after debt, when your job feels uncertain, when your family depends on you, when the house is older, the car is aging, and one surprise bill could throw everything off. In that season, cash is not weakness. Cash is oxygen. It gives you room to think. It keeps you from borrowing at the worst possible moment. It turns emergencies into problems you can face without panic. But there is another season when the question changes. Not, do I have enough cash to survive a bad month? But, is my money strong enough to support the life I am moving toward? And that question is heavier, because it forces you to look beyond the comfort of the balance. It forces you to admit that money can be safe in one way and vulnerable in another. Safe from volatility, but vulnerable to inflation. Safe from market drops, but vulnerable to missed growth. Safe from sudden decisions, but vulnerable to years of quiet underperformance. Financial maturity is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not proving how bold you are. It is not abandoning caution. It is learning how to place caution where it belongs and courage where it belongs. Your emergency fund should be cautious. Your next 12 months of known expenses should be cautious. The money for the roof, the taxes, the insurance premium, the car repair, the medical deductible, that money should not be asked to ride a roller coaster. It has a near-term job. It needs to be ready. It needs to be boring. But the money meant for your future self cannot always live by the same rules as the money meant for next month's problem. The person you will be 10 years from now is not asking you to be reckless today. He is not asking you to chase hype. He is not asking you to copy strangers. He is asking you to stop letting fear make every dollar act like it is needed tomorrow. So when you look at your high-yield savings account, do not look at it with guilt. Look at it with honesty. Ask what it has done for you. Maybe it protected you. Maybe it helped you recover. Maybe it gave you the first real sense of stability you had in years. Good. Let it have that honor. Then ask what it cannot do. It cannot decide your retirement plan. It cannot tell you how much cash is enough. It cannot separate fear from wisdom. It cannot make inflation disappear. It cannot replace long-term growth. It cannot organize your financial life for you. It can only hold the money you place inside it. The assignment is still yours. A high-yield savings account feels like a smart move because it removes some anxiety. But the smartest financial moves do more than reduce anxiety. They create direction. Direction is what tells you this money stays liquid. Direction is what tells you this debt is costing too much. Direction is what tells you this goal is close, so I will not gamble with it. Direction is what tells you this money has 10 years, so it deserves a chance to grow. Direction is what tells you, I am not trying to be rich overnight. I am trying to become harder to break. And that is really what financial strength after 40 is about. Not looking successful. Not sounding sophisticated. Not having the perfect account. It is becoming harder to break. Harder to break when the car fails. Harder to break when insurance rises. Harder to break when the market gets ugly. Harder to break when a family member needs help. Harder to break when retirement starts becoming less of an idea and more of a calendar date. A high-yield savings account can help with that, but only if it has the right role. Only if it is part of the structure, not the whole structure. Only if the comfort it gives you does not become a reason to avoid the next responsible decision. Sometimes the next responsible decision is not saving more. Sometimes it is assigning better. Sometimes it is separating the money that protects your present from the money that must build your future. Sometimes it is admitting that what once made you feel safe is now asking too little from your money. And that does not mean you made a mistake. It means you have reached a new stage. The same strategy that helped you recover may not be the same strategy that helps you retire. The same account that helped you sleep at night may not be enough to help you live with dignity later. The same cash pile that once represented discipline may eventually need to become a plan. That is not failure, that is growth. So do not hear this as a warning to abandon cash. Hear it as an invitation to become more precise. Keep the cash that protects you. Respect it. Name it. Let it do its job. But do not let every dollar hide behind the word safe. Some dollars need safety. Some dollars need purpose. Some dollars need time. And some dollars need to stop standing still. At a certain age, money stops being just numbers. It becomes breathing room, dignity, options, the ability to say no, the ability to not panic, the ability to face a bad season without feeling like your whole life is collapsing, And if your money is going to carry that much meaning, then it deserves more than a parking space. It deserves a job. So the next time you open that account and see the balance sitting there, pause for a second. Not with fear, not with shame, just with honesty. Ask yourself, is this money protecting my life, or is it hiding from it? Maybe part of it is exactly where it belongs, and maybe part of it has been waiting for you to finally give it a future. If this conversation helped you see your money a little more clearly, follow the channel and share this video with 5 people who might need to hear it before they let another year pass on autopilot. And leave a sincere comment below. Tell me where you are in this conversation. Are you holding cash for protection, for fear, or because no one ever helped you separate the difference? And tell me what topic you want us to talk about next, because money does not always change your life in one big moment. Sometimes it changes when you finally look at the same account and see a completely different question.